Hello, my name's John. Welcome to my podcast. It's a true crime mystery, the topic of which is my brother's death. My brother, first name Lewis, middle name Yali. We called him Yali for the most part. Family did at least. He died 3.5 years ago. Or should I say he was murdered? That's for you to decide once I present the facts. But I can tell you this. My brother died of an overdose. That much is true. Let me show you a few things, and I will bait you with some thoughts and entice you to watch the next episode. If you die today, or if I die today, you will at least generate one piece of paper, and that piece of paper will be your death certificate. If you die in a car accident or something, maybe there will be a police report saying you ran into the bridge abutment. That police report and your death certificate, maybe 2 pages. I'll be generous. Maybe you're really interesting and came in at 3 pages. Now, if there's something weird about your death and you wind up going to the medical examiner, then they may give you a cursory look over and you may get 2 pages. A brief description as to what exactly they think happened to you. So your death, at best, may add up to no more than 5 pages of information. Over the last 3.5 years in researching my brother Yali's death, I came up with hundreds of pages. Hundreds of pages. And this is 1.5 years out of date. But we're not just talking about a death certificate. We're not just talking about a police report. We're not just talking about an autopsy. Although we're talking about all of those things just the same. Let me tell you what I mean by that. We'll talk a little bit at some point about a police report that mentions me and my mom being there when my brother's body was being brought out. And yet I will tell you that when my brother's body was being brought out of his apartment in Albuquerque, I was 250 miles to the south, here where I live, and my mom was in North Carolina. So there were people there representing themselves as family, wanting access to his body and to his apartment. We'll discuss that later. There was an autopsy done. Actually, my parents paid for a private second autopsy. But the autopsy is so strange, so vague in its report, that my older brother, who's a doctor, looked at it and said a couple of interesting things. He said, "John, first off, I don't know what this is. This is unlike any autopsy report I've ever seen. He didn't know what it was." And then second off, he said, "We can't even be sure, based upon what's been presented here, that this person that they are discussing in this autopsy is, one, male as compared to female, and two, even our brother." So we'll discuss how the autopsy is so vague. It's almost worthless. Then there's the other information that I was able to get. And that's interesting because I solicited for information via the Freedom of Information Act for police reports regarding my brother's friends. And those came back, let's use the word pristine. I think all that was redacted from them was the last 4 digits of their social security numbers on the front page. Other than that, it just read like a regular report. My brother's information, however, is so heavily redacted that it almost doesn't make sense. It reads like something that the government might have been involved with, which raises another question or another thought. There was a point in all of my research and all of my looking and reading and perusing, if you will, when I thought, this is completely fucked up. And I picked up the phone and I called my mom back in North Carolina. And I said, Mom, is it possible Yali was working undercover? And we'll discuss that. We'll discuss why I thought that. We'll discuss that conversation with my mom. And we'll discuss how the investigation into his death went subsequent to that. We'll also discuss how there was a cabal of homeless people who are continuously calling the funeral home and continuously calling the medical examiner, trying to expedite the cremation of his body. There were individuals who would call, posing as my father, who were trying to, again, facilitate and expedite the process of cremation. Were they looking to destroy evidence? We'll discuss that. So as you can see, this is not a plain black and white case. As I said, yes, my brother did die of a drug overdose, but I believe, after all of my research, that this is murder. During the process of presenting this podcast, we will take each chunk of information in the order with which I received it. We will discuss the investigation that both I conducted as well as a private investigator. We'll discuss events that took place around my brother, around where my brother lived. And I think at the end, at the very least, you'll have questions if I haven't convinced you at that time. One last bit of information, just to tease you with. When my brother died, I believe on Thursday, the 20th of December in 2021, Thursday night, just coincidentally, the security camera in front of his apartment stopped working at that moment. It was not until the following Sunday, when the police came to remove his body as part of a health and welfare check, that they discovered him dead in there. And as I said, it removed his body. It's not until a week after that that the security camera in front of his apartment began to work. In that week, his apartment was ransacked 3 times. What was done in his apartment those 3 times the break-ins occurred? Well, I'm not going to tell you all of it, but I'll give you a teaser. They rearranged the pictures on the refrigerator, ate a lot of fruit, took out the garbage. So, anyway, I hope you'll join me as we go down this road. It is quite interesting. It's a sad statement that my brother died this way. If this podcast in any way helps anybody not do fentanyl, not do any of the drugs that kill you instantly, then maybe we've accomplished something here. If there's any questions you have related to this investigation or this podcast in any way, if I can help you in your effort to investigate the death of a loved one. Uh, that's why I'm here. And in last respect, this is being done in part with the sanctioning of my mom and her approval in an effort to, in some respect, give my brother some of the dignity that he deserved. Because, as I said, he was murdered. So, talk to you next time. John out.